You can tell from the makeup and the dress down that I'm off duty. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess I have a second on me. Seems like you've got an alert there. Okay, I'll look at your paperwork. Okay. Why didn't you come for this one? Fair enough. I hear you. Yeah, no. I know this is Navy. I'm Army. And you wouldn't see me like this out during the day because, I don't know if you've ever been in the room. Well, let me just say, I've been in units where I have heard my fair share of people talking crap about women for wearing too much makeup. Not like out of regs makeup, but like speculating about their bedroom behavior based on their makeup, which is completely inappropriate. But, so I'm not one to usually, yeah. Oh, what's that now? Jose Miguel, you say? Oh. Yeah, I know him. Yeah. Moctezuma Garcia, right? Yeah. Yeah, I know the guy. Down to brass tacks. What questions do you have for me before I run through this real quick and get back to what I was doing? Well, let's just get started then. So I'm just gonna wash my hands right here. No, I'm gonna keep listening to this. I can hear you at the same time. I am technically off duty. Otherwise I wouldn't be dressed down, dog tags dangling. Like, come on now. Okay, so we'll take those off for this part. Bedhead Red. Yeah, I know her too. Yeah, I know a lot of the people on the ship. So, are you here to gossip or are you here to get your exam done? Fair enough. I know you can take it. Alright. Deep breath in. And out. And in. And out. And again, in. Out. In. Out. Great. And then back here, behind you. Deep breath in. And out. And again, in. And out. And in. And out. In. And out. We can just do it real quick. I'm going to listen to your heart now, okay? What was I doing? I mean, I was playing a video game. I am off duty, as I said. But I'm making an exception for you because you look like you need an exception made. Oh yeah, I never liked the new regs. For the Army anyway, they changed it that women can have like ponytails and hair down. And to me that's actually dumb. I don't usually care about like outward appearances, but from a practical, like combative standpoint, I always thought it made sense. I mean, not I always thought. The fact is, it makes sense to have a bun or something else safe and small. You know. Well, I mean, it's a lot easier to grab people and drag them away by their braids and ponytails than it is. Now, braids that are up here on the head, obviously not a problem. But when we're talking like long, so I always continued doing this way because, you know, yeah, I was first cav, and it's not saying much because cav soldiers, but I was the best female combatant in my company. I did care about combative stuff. Again, it wasn't saying much. I was proud of my unit sometimes. There were a lot of good things about my unit, but everyone ragged on the cav. What is an army doctor doing on a Navy ship? Apparently not finishing your physical exam. I'm going to listen to all 4 areas of your heart now. And it's not a strange thing. You know, during COVID, like, they deployed infectious disease army docs from, like, BAMC on Navy ships, right? Yeah. Alright, that's all 4 areas of your heart. Alright, I'm just going to poke on your head a little bit here. J. Newbold. Yeah, I've heard of them too. I know a lot of the people on the ship. Of course I do. I'm new to this ship, but I'm not new to knowing my business. Alright, follow my fingers. Alright, stare straight ahead at my nose and the ridiculous makeup that you interrupted me in while I was off duty. I'm just joshing you. Tell me when you see my fingers. Okay. Alright, let me write that down. So you didn't put a lot here in your medical history. So you're pretty new to the military, I'm guessing. So what's this? Yeah. Fair enough. Alright. Squeeze my fingers. Alright, push up, push down, push out, push in. Okay? Do this. And this. Put your arm like this. Okay? Same thing other side. Okay. Put your arm out at an angle like this. I'm going to push down on it. Okay, other arm also. Yeah, do this. Do this. This way. This way. Okay. Yep, just run in through the musculoskeletal part real quick. Yep. I want to have you put your hand like you're pouring out a beer can and stick your hand out like that. Same as you did with your hand flat, but I want your hand like this. Just like that. Alright. And push up against my hand. Push up against my hand. Yeah, I'm checking the ligaments in your shoulder since you put shoulder down there. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to run my fingers down your spine, okay? Alright. Okay. You have a little bit of tension, but no vertebrae issues or anything like that. Can I have you put your hands on your hips and go all the way to one side, all the way to the other side, and twist and twist. Yeah. You're very curious about what I was playing. Well, it's a little bit silly, but I've been playing this game, World of Warships. They actually are sponsoring a stream that I'm doing. So, they're actually sponsoring 2 streams that I'm doing. Yeah. So, I was looking into the company a little bit because I don't really like to work with, well, not I don't really like, I have a policy of trying to be a little choosy about who I work with. Yeah. So, I thought it was interesting that I read a GamerNet article saying that the president of the company that did this World of Warships game was put on a terrorist list by the, I guess, Belarus equivalent of like the KGB. I thought that was promising, actually. And then Wikipedia, which is not a good source, but I was in a bit of a hurry, mentioned that this company like fired a guy for being like anti Ukraine and like pro-Russia. So they do seem to like care about human rights in things like war. I thought that was kind of interesting. So, Sleepy Embers. So, it's kind of like a combo today. It's the rest of your physical exam that we started earlier on the other, earlier, and then playing this game. Catching up a little bit too. So, but yeah, so I was looking into the company a little bit, and they, all in all, they've been donating to like a lot of charities, like military women's charities and other things like that. That was kind of neat to know they've been doing that, and they seem to be pretty above board. They're like the 3rd largest taxpayer in Cyprus or something like that, so they're paying their taxes, doing what they're supposed to do. They had been accused of like having a mechanism that was kind of like gambling-y in the game, but we're going to play today and find out how it is. It's free, so it shouldn't be gambling-y. And as I was digging and finding out these kind of cool things about their activism work, and about like them kind of, I mean, at least nominally standing up for human rights, which is all good stuff. I also found out how they did some of the research for this game, which I thought was really unique because I have never heard of an MMO that was hush hush. Yeah. I have never heard of an MMO where they bothered to like hire historians and look at blueprints and try to make the ships realistic. So I thought that was kind of neat too. So it piqued my interest from the military perspective. It piqued my interest from the I thought it was a good time and opportunity. There have been some changes in my military status. I thought it was a good time and opportunity to talk about some military stuff also. So, not like a huge change, but I thought it was reasonable to talk about. So, yeah, so it fit. And then I thought it was really cool that they wanted to be historically accurate. So we're going to find out how cool it was. It took a really long time to download. So, we can do the rest of your exam though. Oh, and if you want to play along while I'm playing, that would be pretty cool, because obviously it is sponsored, and I found out this summer that it's quite expensive doing the things that I want to do in there. overdrew my bank account twice on this charity project. Yeah, and already spent all my savings on the ultrasound machine that we brought down there, which was cool. We were able to do, there was no bee nurse who was able to use it really effectively, and that was wonderful. There was, the health fairs that we ran, I think, were a big success. We found some pathology that was kind of important, just in general. It was good stuff. It was very good. I'm a little worried about some of the people that I connected with. I have been doing like a weekly group with these, with Indigenous folks who are dealing with the loss of their teenage daughter, who had ended her own life in March. And so I've been working with them the past 3 months, and this week has been like the first week that I haven't been like in contact with them because of being not in Paraguay anymore. And the aid group that goes to their community regularly to teach kids like how to read and stuff like that, that group has not been super helpful they've been very helpful in like getting me there, but they haven't been super helpful this week about like helping with some of the connections stuff. But that's not their fault. That's not their job. Their job is to help teach Indigenous kids to read. I'm just worried because one of the women, I'm worried about what we saw on her baby on ultrasound, and I am hoping that she followed up with a specialist like I had asked, and we gave her money for her hospital visit because it was going to be difficult for her to get there. So things like that, like regular emergencies plus having to pay for my appendectomy out of pocket, which hopefully TRICARE is going to cover, made things very expensive. So yeah, I'm hella getting sponsored. I'm hella playing the sponsored game, and you better hella help me because we're trying to do good things here. So anyway, I can show you the game after we finish your exam. You have distracted me so much. Let me listen to your belly. Mm-hmm. Yep. Push here, 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 and here. Take a deep breath and out. I'm gonna squeeze here, take a deep breath. Okay. I'm gonna tap like this. Alright, I'm gonna pull my hand off real quickly. Okay. I'm gonna kind of bend your leg around behind you a little bit like this. I'm gonna tap on your belly on this side. Alright, so that's abdominal. So I get this magazine, you see it over here next to me, it is Biblical Archaeology. It's all kinds of people, archaeologists from all kinds of backgrounds, Jewish, atheist, Christian, all different kinds. And I just happened to open it today, which is why I'm laughing, to this page. Famous volcano has strange effect on women. What kind of ads are they taking out? Like, this is ridiculous. I mean, it is really cool that this was created from the aftermath of a Mount St. Helens eruption. That is very cool. Not a sponsor, by the way. Do not get this. They're not paying me. I'm making fun of their advertising. I just think it's weird I think it's weird that an organization that otherwise prints like really interesting historical things is like, it makes sense when they advertise the Lanier Center for Archaeology, so that people who want to understand archaeology could maybe go study there. That makes sense. That's the target audience. And I guess the target audience is interested in old rocks. But it's very funny to me that they would have something this spammy as their target audience situation. So, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. Anyway, your paperwork, which is over here. Let us look in your eyes and ears and all that good stuff. First, I'm going to hit you a bunch with this hammer. Alright, just your knees. Okay. Here. Let me hold your arm out. You drop it. You relax your arm. Okay. Great. Other side. Alright, then I want you to hold your arm out like this. You see that? Yep. But down at a right angle. I'm just holding it up like that because you look like you're not looking down. Okay. And then I'm just going to tap here on your wrist and your bicep tendon. Alright, same thing over here. And here. Very good. Which part of the exam did my medic already do on you? What the heck happened to the rest of my, oh, there it is. Did you try to steal my equipment? Just kidding, sailor. Alright. Take a little look in this ear. Alrighty. Now erythema, edema, quick visualization of the tympanic membrane. There's nothing behind it. Looks nice and clear. And not too much serum buildup either. Same thing over here. Erythema, no edema. Looking good. At the tympanic membrane. It's not too dry, and you don't have too much serum buildup either. Alright. Getting a new one of these. Your nose. You got allergies? Yeah, you can kind of tell. This thing has been giving me trouble today. I'm not entirely sure why. I really hope it doesn't decide to go on the fritz. I need it to not. There we go. Alright, maybe just open your mouth. Okay. No, I do need you to say ah, actually. Yeah, the reason for that is I'm checking cranial nerve 9 and 10. I've already checked while we were doing all the rest of this. 3, 5, no, 3, 4, and 6. I'm just gonna touch your face here, here, and here. That's 5. Yep. Shrug your shoulders for me. Perfect. Okay. Stick out your tongue and move it from side to side. That's the hypoglossal nerve. Yep. That's cranial nerve 12. And close your eyes. Tell me when you can hear this. This, okay. There you go, same thing on the other side. This is the sound you're looking for. Tell me when you can hear it. Excellent. Alright, puff out your cheeks. Do this. Wrinkle your face. Make it really surprised. Close your eyes real tight. Open them real wide. Good. Alrighty, and yeah, you had your vision tested with opto, right? Yep. Not optho, with the optometrist is what I'm asking. Yeah. Why is this jamming? this mechanism is jamming, and I'm quite displeased about it. Alright. So I'm going to just look in this eye, okay? Alright. Here I'm just trying to follow blood vessels. Optic nerve, visualized, fovea. Okay, no cottonwool spots or tiny little hemorrhages. That's what I know how to look for. Same thing over here. No cottonwool spots, no tiny hemorrhages. Yeah, mine is different. This was one of the big things I saved up for a long time ago, because it was a lot easier for me to use than the other ones. I've actually had it since I got out of medical school almost. Thanks for the cheer, I appreciate that. Which MP3 would you like? How about something mental health related? How about something mental health related? How about this one for people escaping toxic or unhealthy relationships? And it's got a really good soundscape anyway. Okay, eyes. Oh, let me just write down before I forget. Alrighty then. What is next? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean we've done the musculoskeletal because we did that in the other. Yeah. We did the we've done the visual stuff except for the part optometry does. We've done eyes, ears, scalp, abdomen, heart, lungs. It really doesn't take as long as people pretend these things take. We've done a pretty comprehensive physical, and I think the grand total was about maybe 15 minutes. I'm gonna fill out I've signed off your paperwork and sent in for your labs. Would you like to play this game with me now? Oh, I like this. I don't like all these sounds. For whatever reason, so I don't have combat PTSD. My PTSD related to dead people is military PTSD, but not combat military PTSD. It's criterion A4 PTSD. But for some reason, loud noises still bother me, and I lived right next to when I was living on I lived right next to the base, and during the time that I was most sick and basically bedbound because of the fibromyalgia, and dealing with reliving all of these horrible things that I had seen over and over again. So for whatever reason, I have associated the sounds of cannons going off in the middle of the night with those things, even though I do not have combat PTSD. So in Paraguay, in the middle of the night, I would hear, and I've lived places, twice I have lived places where there were gunshots, because someone was trying to hurt somebody else. Okay. So when I was in Puerto Rico, and then when I was people I knew got killed in Puerto Rico, versus when I was in, one of my friends also got robbed, versus when I was in Killeen. I was in a neighborhood where, like, the police were like, "You better be careful living here," and I was like, I mean, I felt very safe living there. Everyone knew I was there, and no one had any problem with me. But, and I liked my neighborhood. But the one I had to live in after the evil rental company was evil, I didn't love so much. And the people downstairs were doing a lot of drugs. It was only pop, but their reaction to being, well, might have also been heroin because of the pupillary, I know that would be cocaine with the pupillary dilation. People were doing many drugs downstairs, and there were people that needed help at one point. Like, this very girl who got out of jail and then got into a fight with her partner, and then was in the street screaming, like trying to get run over. So like moments that ended up okay, things ended up being good, but I've had a lot of exciting adventures, and some of them have involved gun sounds. So I have somehow become a little bit jumpy about loud sounds. So don't judge me if I am jumpy about loud sounds in this imaginary game. Okay, thank you. Ooh, what kind of cruiser should we have? Ooh, the Black Swan is a great name. Well, we can start with a U.S. cruiser, right? Oh no, I don't want to play against any people. Oh no. Oh, what this stream is going to become is Jen freaking out over soft, quiet sounds. Oh no, I'm so bad at this kind of stuff. Oh, I don't have the good kind of mouse. How do I go? Is it because my computer is overheating, or have I reached the edge of the map? I think I have reached the edge of the map. Okay, that's why there's no ships. That's fine. That makes sense. I immediately loaded up the game and sailed to the edge of the map. Clearly not my expertise. Oh, I don't want to start on sticky keys right now. I'm trying to shoot a guy. Your gun's reloading. You had like 30 minutes to load the guns while I was like sailing all around the nowhere. Why you want to reload now? Wait, oh. You can tell I certainly don't do like shooters, right? I can now buy my first ship. You have to get your first ship in order for me to get credit. But also, I think it would be nice to just play if we could actually play. Why did they say this is a co-op battle? I had no friends the whole time. There she blows. And thinking about your health process, I wanted to give some tips for navigating the health system. I just got notified this month that I've been moved from the TRDL to the permanent list, which is kind of prompted some thought about, and I will explain what that means in a second, which has, actually, I'm just going to check your scalp for, with tension. I can do a little bit of OMT on your scalp while we are talking. You do have a little bit of scalp tension there, right? So, I do want to talk a little bit about navigating those kind of things. So, at the end of my deployment in 2020, when I came back, I was very messed up, and I actually couldn't go out of the house. Not for social things, not for fun, not for anything, for about 2 years almost. There were scattered appearances here and there, but I mean, I remember standing in line for my drug test, literally with my eyes closed and like hugging myself in pain, because I couldn't really handle seeing anything, and I was in tons and tons of pain. It was very difficult for me to be out of the house at all. I was only there because I had to be for that particular situation. And always feeling like my health problems didn't matter to anybody. Because a lot of times the challenge with the military is there are so many people who are trying to take advantage of the system, who are faking things, but it's not as many as some people like to say and pretend. So I always approached every person with like a blank slate. And in all that time, I only had 2 out of thousands of patient encounters. I had 2, and there's tests you can do to check if someone's faking, and I had 2 that were fakers, and that I sussed out for trying to get stuff from the military, right? And in general, the vast majority of soldiers are, I think they will give you what you put in, right? And I think it's that way for any kind of leadership. The medics that I directly supervised, like, they stood up for me when things were bad. One of them helped to save my life. 2 of them testified on my behalf when a horrible person, in order to avoid doing her duties, falsely accused me of laying hands on her. This was a sergeant who was supposed to be the evac platoon sergeant for a firing range, and she was also operating as a range safety. That day, she was not operating as a range safety. The lieutenant in charge of the range was curled up on the floor, on the ground, in the fetal position, in obvious pain and needing to be tended to. And the callousness of this medic, if you can call her that, this young platoon sergeant, and she always looked gorgeous. She never overpainted, but she was always gorgeous. This gorgeous jerk. I asked her, because she's the evac person, so she has the evac platforms there. So I asked her, like, hey, I need you to get such and such medication out of the FLA. And they were basic medications. And they didn't have them. They didn't have the FLA stocked with, like, the most basic medications. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if something had gone down? And when I opened the FLAs, the ambulances, they were full of, like, there were these, like, poles and stuff in there. I was like, what the hell? If I have to transport someone's gonna get killed. Like, I had trusted, and just like, wow, I couldn't have trusted worse people to be taking care of this. And because all her supervisors always spoke well of her. So like I told her, like, okay, well, if you don't have the medication here, please go send someone, like, to go get it. And she said, oh, that's not our job, that's somebody else's job, that's the other platoon's job. Like, I don't have time to go back and forth with you about this right now. I have someone in the fetal position on the floor, right, like, who is clearly in pain. And I was very direct with her. I said, you better fucking help, or you better go fucking get someone who can. And then I walked away to help this patient, because there were symptoms that she had that were concerning for a brain aneurysm. And I'm not going to stand here have an argument with you while someone has a brain aneurysm, right? Fortunately, she did not have a brain aneurysm, but we can't be playing these stupid games, right? So I had thought that that medic was going away to get help, and actually she was going away to say that I had shoved her, which I never did. And I pissed off a lot of people on patients' behalf. So my patients always loved me, except for one of the two fakers. She didn't like me very much, but this one doesn't know how much I was trying to protect her, and how much, like, if it wasn't for me, she would have been put out on, like, an adverse administrative action. I was putting her out on medical, so that she could get out of the military with an honorable and be taken care of, or, like, be okay. She wasn't going to get any money from the military because the military hadn't made her sick. She was always lying, but she was still going to be okay, right, and still eligible for, like, VA benefits and stuff like that, because I had been told by her command, the faker, that they were looking for an administrative action against her. And so I was like, in order to, like, both help this command and this soldier, I need to get this soldier out. So she doesn't know that that was for her protection. She hated me because I, like, treated her medically appropriately and didn't let her make stuff up. But other than that, all of my patients had always liked me. But no one I worked with ever really did. And the ones who did, or pretended to, weren't very helpful in the end, except for my medics, because the medics that I trained, not this, like, monsters that are trained by other people and lie and do bad stuff to patients, not her. My medics that I trained, it was like, what you put into them is what you get out. So anyway, because I have gone through so many legal processes with the military, and because I have also I've been on the side of putting people into those legal processes, I've found a couple things, and, you know, just in case you're military and you're watching, if a doctor says on your PHA to consider MEB, probably it is better that you talk to another physician and have that noted in your record sooner rather than later. I did not want to be MEB'd, so it was recommended on my PHA like a year and a half. No, it was recommended on my PHA almost 2 years before it ended up happening, or before I ended up requesting it, and 4 years before it ended up, not even requesting it, like being, like, agreeing to it, and 4 years before it actually happened, because my MEB process was so long, because it was a physician's MEB process. They don't want to let go of physicians. They had to be particularly careful with my case, because the disease, one of the diseases that I have, and the primary one that I was originally going to be MEB'd for, right, it didn't end up being the primary, but one of the ones that I had, what I was initially put into the MEB for, before mental health came along and added their portion. My primary, it was at that time one that was fairly easy for people to fake. So in the end, they ended up not compensating me for the actual disease that was ruining my life, and instead compensating me for other stuff through mental, because they couldn't afford to set the precedent. I totally get it. They couldn't afford to set the precedent that you can get out. I mean, you people get MEB'd for fibromyalgia all the time, but you can't. And there are really unfair cases where people have, like, come in for 6 months, gotten MEB'd, and now they're, like, collecting a paycheck the rest of their lives for something, like, 6 months. I don't think you got fibromyalgia in the military in 6 months. I'm, like, this girl hadn't even finished basic training, actually. It was, the 6 months was, like, her MEB process. Like, I don't think that is what happened. It could have happened, you haven't done a lot yet. Which is why I didn't want to be MEB'd, right? Because I strongly feel, as a lot of people feel, that it's supposed to be for taking care of those who have taken care of us, right? So my plan was not to be MEB'd. My plan was to finish my time and move on with my life. And my plan was to be working and healthy right after I got out of the military. So I thought that I was going to get out of the military. I was going to go work locum tenens, like 3 to 6 months a year, make a ton of money, because they make a ton of money, and then be able to go use that to help poor people. But what actually happened was I got super sick to where, like, now I cannot do something like locum tenens. I can realistically work, like, I realistically am a possible part-time clinic person, but I can't hold down a consistent, I won't be able to hold down a consistent job, because you have to be able to show up on time, and things have to not change randomly suddenly with your health, which is what happens with my conditions. With my condition, it could change to the same day, and that is really unfair to an employer. That's not right. So and unfair to patients, obviously, too. So I'm pretty good. I've never had to cancel, well, it's not true. I very rarely have to cancel my telehealth patients. So I do keep up with those, but I am not rolling in the money that I thought I was going to be rolling in. I thought I was going to get out of the military, with flying colors, all this wonderful experience behind me. I was probably going to make major before I got out, although I'd rather stick with Gen, because Captain Gen sounds better. And I thought I was also going to maybe get an FMOB, and then it turns out that I'm weak and can't do a lot of things. So why am I telling you this? Because if you find yourself getting sick and starting to go downhill, the thing that I did right and that a lot of people do wrong is, as soon as I knew I was going downhill back in 2017, I started getting regular medical visits, not medical visits that interfered with my work. So people didn't need to know a ton of what was going on until I had to be hospitalized. Then obviously it interfered with my work. But when you're hospitalized, people don't tend to get mad at you because you can't really, you're hospitalized. And there was a very consistent record. So even though my command teams didn't know what was going on, because I did not want them to know, because I thought I was going to just survive it and escape. And I don't know if that was good or bad. I don't know if I should have I don't know if it should have been clearer to them earlier what was going on with me. I did let my other coworkers know. I tried to be really open about what was going on with me with my other coworkers, who it might directly affect. But no one, that did not help. I did not get compassion or help for that. Because doctors and nurses are jerks. They don't care about you. And I know me saying doctors and nurses are jerks makes it very difficult for people to want to go seek medical help regularly. But you have to do that. If you don't do that, it's two things. One, you might be robbing yourself of the chance to get better, because there were ups. There were times when I was able to get marginally better, accomplish more, and then there were downs, right? And then eventually it was only downs. But there were ups, right? And that's important. I was able to gain that extra productivity. I was able to help more people as a consequence, right? And you owe the world the best you possible. So you gotta get it taken care of. But the other reason is, if things are not regular, like what the dumb thing that all the higher enlisted will do is they'll tough through all of their problems until like the month they're gonna retire. And then all of a sudden they're saying all their problems. Well, at that point, no one's gonna believe you, because at that point it looks like you're doing it for the money. That's what that looks like, right? Because some people do it for the money. There are lawyers who make an entire living off of that industry, off of soldiers trying to put just the right thing on their paperwork so they can get paid on the way out. Like, I know someone in my family actually, who was recommended by one of these advisors to put PTSD on their paperwork to get evaluated for. And I was like, you do not have PTSD. And they're like, I don't think so either. I never have. I got shot at, and there was a thing that blew up where I had been sitting, but I never, like, I don't have dreams about it or stressful anything about it. I don't ever think about that. Like, and they're fine. They're completely productive. They live a completely normal life. They make 6 figures a year. I'm kind of like, no, don't do that. And they didn't push it. They didn't end up, because they weren't trying to cheat the system. The advisor had told them to put such and such down. It was like, yeah, but it still wasn't. I don't think they should have put such and such down, even if the advisor told them. But they don't know. They're not medical, right? They don't know. Whereas, like, having trouble going out of my bed or my room. So, and this is why you have the problems with, like, some people, for example, really do need emotional support animals, and fake people make it harder for the other people. So those people exist, but again, there are less fake people than everyone who's greedy wants to think. It's just like with homeless people, where people are like, oh, he's probably going to use it for drugs. A lot of times, no. You don't know. So, what. But anyway, I digress. You need to make sure you're getting seen regularly. If you don't like your provider, there's still AR 40-501 and AR 40-502, although probably been heavily revised in the last 6 years, because a lot has been changing in military medicine in the last 6 years. But there are actual regulations about your health care. So it's, you can, if you have a problem, you can always go to the patient advocate at your hospital. You have that right. And you can, you can also always file an ICE complaint or ICE comment. All of those things, you have power. It's just soldiers are not usually educated on their power when it comes to healthcare. You can, so what you need to do, if you need to be seen regularly, and you don't like the people who are seeing you regularly, you can sometimes find a specialist you like. So, for example, if you have to have this primary that you don't like, and they're not helping with your problem, lazy primaries will often over-refer to specialists anyway. So you can be like, hey, but you just make sure you do everything, like if you have back pain, say you have chronic back pain, you must do all the things the primary tells you to do first, right? So if the primary says, I need you to do 4 weeks of this exercise and then 4 weeks of the physical therapy, and you're like, I know that's not going to help. I know that's not the solution. If you fail to do that, you are making it very difficult for them to justify to TRICARE and to the specialist for you to go to the specialist, because the specialist needs to see that you have fulfilled certain criteria. Sometimes soldiers will be like, oh, they're just sending me off to physical therapy because they don't believe me. What I need is an MRI. Well, no. What you need to do is follow the order, because that's how you're going to get what you want. So sometimes that's an issue. So even if you have a crappy primary, they're going to have to go in a certain order. And you can just let them know, like, hey, I've had this and this issue. Another thing is to be very, very specific with them about your symptoms. Describe exactly the kind of pain. Like, is it stabbing? Is it pulsing? All these kind of things. Be descriptive, like you're trying to write a book. Be very, very specific, and point, just be very specific to where it is. Don't say pain numbers that are too high, because then people won't believe you. If you're sitting there quietly and you're saying your pain is an 8, no one will believe you. No one. Because we rate by the grimace score. So while you may say your pain is an 8, the grimace score is going to take priority. So we're going to write down patient says pain is an 8, but then we're also going to write down patient is sitting there quietly on their cell phone without such and such. Having recently had appendicitis pain, I was surprised at how much of the time I was able to be quiet on my cell phone after the bad pain had subsided. So I'm not saying that your pain isn't real. I am saying the way you properly game the system is you use moderate numbers, because then they will listen to you better. Got it? That is how you properly get their attention. But do not wait until the last month for all your healthcare issues, and especially don't do it with mental health, because it actually significantly affects your career. These soldiers who were like toughing it out, especially these upper enlisted who've been toughing it out for years and years and years, then here at the end, like how much of your emotional, and you can see where people's unresolved trauma is affecting how they treat other people, and the compassion or lack of compassion they have on other people. Because if you watched 2 of your buddies blow up and you haven't processed that, it's going to be really hard for you to be patient with this wet behind the ears 18-year-old who just came out of boot camp, who has no problems in his life and is just sad because he has to do work. You may not be able to get to know that 18-year-old, understand how to motivate him anymore. Obviously, the upper enlisted know how to motivate far better than I do, right? But at that point, there are people that I was able to motivate as there were medics that the commander was not able to motivate, that I was able to motivate. Every medic who worked with me, every time they sent me a shit bag, the shit bag worked and did what they were supposed to do, because first I sat down with the shit bag and asked them what they wanted to do with their life, and figured out what was going on. They always worked for me. And the difficulty, if you are carrying these horrible things that have happened to you, and then the people in front of you, you start, your own pain becomes so much you can't understand how to, can't understand, but do you know what I'm saying? You may not be able to find out things about that young soldier, that E1, because you are carrying, ouch. It is a fact. Some of the criteria of PTSD, like PCL5, which is not diagnostic criteria, but is a evaluator, a screener. Some of it has to do with how you look at the world, because literally that's affected by PTSD. So putting that off, if you can get treated, the problem is confidential treatment, right? Because yes, your command team may find out or will find out, especially when it's time to that deploy, they find out if you have been to behavioral health. It can be helpful to say I'm going to a doctor's appointment, because I was really careful about keeping my stuff hidden, and as a result, nobody knew that I was going to behavioral health. I just would say I have a doctor's appointment, I would go to my doctor's appointment. And because I wasn't missing work, like my duties as a consequence for the most part, or because I would have somebody, like my closest supervisors would know, but no one else, until it got really bad, and then my supervisor told my command team. But people didn't know. Like, nobody knew. It is possible to keep it under wraps, depending on how you manage it. Also, there's a thing in the military called an MFLAC, Military Family Life Counselor. You can also use them to get help along the way, but for something where you have this unresolved thing about your friend, it would be better if there is a record. If it's getting bad enough and you're having nightmares and stuff, you're not trying to get any bead. You're just trying to get taken care of for nightmares and so forth. You just need to make sure you go and get that taken care of. The problem is, because mental health in the military is, because the danger of people having access to weapons and offering themselves is so high, is why there's so much, like, on top of you. Although soldiers in some cases have less access to weapons than civilians do, because there are so many military bases where you can't carry, which is, in my opinion, unwise, because that's exactly where we need to be able to carry. So when people shoot us, we do not get shot. But anyway, do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying I understand it is very difficult. I understand it's incredibly complicated to get your behavioral health stuff on the map without coming across as a shitbag. So only go if you are having, like, symptoms that are severe enough that they are weighing you down. It's useful to look at the DSM-5 criteria for MDD and PTSD, both of them, looking at those criteria. It's good to look at them and just be aware if you have them. Or better, it's good to take a PHQ-9, PCL-5. It's good to be honest on those screening scores at the beginning of your doctor visits, if you are honest on those scores. In fact, that's the best place to start, is to start by going to your primary care. Be honest on those screening sheets, and then just be like, hey, I don't necessarily want to take up a lot of resources of behavioral health, but I do need some help. And then you can ask for a medication. Your primary should be able to provide you medication. If not, they can send you somewhere else. And as long as you don't have an awful EVH officer like the one who worked with me, and even if you do, you might have a good PCM, like my people did, and you might still get taken care of. So, regardless, there's still criteria in these diagnostic manuals that they have to obey. And if you say certain things, they are liable. And there are certain things that if you say, I am going to do this or this or this to myself, they have to take that seriously. Because even if you were lying, if you did it, they would then be in huge trouble, right? So, go. Start with your PCM, get documented, and just keep things kind of under wraps. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Just say you're going to a doctor visit, but go. If you need to go, go. And for your back pain and your other things. I'm not saying show up at sick call every single morning. I'm not saying do that. It is still good to push through like you have always been taught to do. But if you wait till the very end, there can be pretty big consequences. master sergeant. It was a platoon sergeant of, it was the outgoing platoon sergeant of my platoon. And he was trying to tell me he knew better than me about this soldier's shoulder. Because he was like, I've been in the military 15 years and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I mean, there's something wrong with the kid's shoulder. Military time or not. He said, like, when I get out of the military, because I had a soldier write down that I had the surgeon write down that even though I was very surgical in my shoulder, I wasn't going to get surgery because I wanted to continue my service to the military, and that's going to look good at the end of my time. It's like, no, it's actually not, because that one piece of paper might get lost in, like it's not lost, it's in your documents, but it's one piece of paper out of a ton of documents in your medical record, or if your medical record's nothing, it's there. But the best time to get that surgery is when you're active duty, because it's a lot more expensive when you're on TRICARE as a retiree, and it's a lot more challenging in the VA. So you waiting until the last minute is not better, and your pain is going to affect your behavior and your ability to do your job, even if you're super, super tough. It's like, it doesn't do better. And obviously there are soldiers who have been in much, much longer than I was. I was only in 9 years. There are people who have been in much, much longer who will argue and disagree. But I'm just telling you what I have seen from being on both sides of the administrative actions, or administrative, medical, all these actions. I have been both the patient and I have been the physician. And I know this is what I've seen happen. So I know military medicine administratively. And even people who know military medicine who've been in longer than me have not been through the process the way that I have. So I do have a unique perspective of some kind, despite my young, overly pretty face. Well, that was longer than I wanted to talk about that, but I did want to make sure, since this was military, kind of military specific, I wanted to make sure to, when this goes up, if military people see it, I want them to kind of know some of this stuff. I know it's hard to trust people at certain commands, and if you can avoid being sent to Fort Hood at all costs, I would recommend avoiding that. Obviously, because Fort Hood is awful. If you ever end up working in the SHARP program, please contact me, because there are some major problems with the way it's taught that I saw directly affect my patients during the time there, because it was taught like too, I guess, lackadaisically. Like, it was taught in a way that didn't get, like, you can't, anyway. They didn't provide the same evidence base to soldiers as they did to us when they trained us. Like, they didn't give the soldiers these studies. I mean, there were men who went into my training with one point of view and came out with a totally different point of view. That never happened in the standard SHARP trainings, ever. Because they didn't provide evidence, they didn't provide the studies. It was just some like bored old white guy would like read it off. They never like had good answers to the questions, and they didn't put them in a context that people could understand, and people found it insulting, because people think they know what consent means. They think I'm a grown adult, like they think this stuff doesn't happen, and they feel accused. They feel like, you're just accusing me when I haven't even done anything yet. So it's quite unfortunate, but if they would treat soldiers like intelligent adults, I think things would be slightly different. People are what you tell them to be, or what you believe of them, unfortunately. Alright. Well, so that was our military themed little stream.